In a perfect world, if you could share your space and have it where your lifestyle doesn't interfere with your neighbors, that would be an incredible place.
My nightmare, the thing I worry about the most with this new University Center building is that we built something that looks really good, but people don't want to be in it because something doesn't work.
Design can inform behavior, and that's something I'm passionate about, like really finding ways that design can inform a space.
When I'm traveling with my family, first thing we do, TripAdvisor. If noise is one of those issues, guess what? We're not even going to consider that hotel, regardless of brand or location.
So if people are partying, if they're arguing, if they're studying and tapping on the floor with their shoe absentmindedly, it'll drive the person below them crazy. And we deal with those types of issues all the time.
How do we create an environment for our people to be more productive, to be more engaged, to be more communicative, to be excited about coming to work, and to attract and retain people?
If you stop someone on the street and ask them what makes a great building, they'll probably mention architecture and interior design. They might say something about space and navigability, colors and shapes, feelings and moods. They probably wouldn't mention soundscapes. But send that same person into a building, and what they hear or don't hear will be a key factor in their experience. They might leave a restaurant early or stay for dessert. They might feel uneasy or relax in a dentist chair. They might stress out in the office or work happily, all depending on the soundscape. Sound changes how we feel, how we work, how we communicate, how we sleep. Put simply, sound can make or break the effectiveness of a building. To make things even more complex, our perception of sound changes based on our state of mind. Depending on what we're trying to achieve, we perceive it as sound or as noise. In a football stadium, silence would be strange. We expect the roar of the crowd. We might even want it. In a restaurant, we want the tinkle of forks and knives, the low hum of conversation, maybe a little music, but not much else. In the maternity ward of a hospital, a baby's cry is a miracle. It's the sound of hope and health, but that same cry when you're trying to sleep or work feels very different. So how do we promote good soundscapes in a built environment?
Gone are the days of the quiet library and surrounded by books. Now there's coffee shops, there's group tables, there's lots of lounge areas.
The spaces that we see are more open these days, and it's for various reasons. It is to give that flexibility or that ability to connect with people, but it's also about trying to give people the access to natural light, the ability to look over and exchange information on a less formal basis.
You know, there's that expectation of hard surfaces, of a hardwood look in some of your higher end apartments. So we're in competition with them. What we've found is as we've been going toward more hard surfaces, we've got more complaints about acoustics. So if we can figure out a way to follow those trends and maintain the right acoustics, that's what we want to do.
Lifestyles and building designs have changed. People want to live in multi-story buildings. They gravitate toward hard surfaces. They want walls of glass and light-filled spaces. They want open offices arranged for collaboration. These trends are exciting and appealing, but they can also take away control over our soundscapes. In too many buildings, we're at the mercy of what's going on above our heads, under our feet, just outside the door, and even across the street. But can noise really affect our productivity, our relationships, our ability to concentrate and learn, our health? Let's jump into the facts. Noise is unwanted sound. It can be anything from a squeaky wheel to a booming engine. Prolonged exposure to these environmental noises can increase heart rate, raise blood pressure, accelerate breathing, and increase the presence of the hormone cortisol in the bloodstream. Cortisol is a natural hormone released in response to stress. It helps us perform well in emergencies, but prolonged high levels of cortisol can suppress immunity, cause hypertension, high blood sugar, carbohydrate cravings, type 2 diabetes, fat deposits, and even reduce libido. Noise can also cause psychological distress. People exposed to noise levels of 75 to 85 decibels have increased complaints of irritability, anxiety, and depression. An urban professional might hear heavy traffic on their morning commute. They might deal with ringing phones at work and end their day in a busy restaurant. It's all part of the normal routine. But When examining their life for the cause of their anxiety, they might never suspect those regular day-to-day sounds because they've blocked them out. Just as troubling, sound can affect our ability to heal. Florence Nightingale identified noise as a risk factor over 150 years ago. The effect is seen most often in hospitals, where layers of voices, footsteps, clattering equipment, and mechanical noises combine to create a stressful environment. Studies show that kind of soundscape can actually delay wound healing and increase pain sensitivity. Noise can also affect a patient's quality and quantity of sleep.
Noise has a major effect on the patient. If you have a patient that has a cardiac issue or their health-related issues related to stress, that noise level can impact that stress level and increase their length of stay in a hospital. Some hospitals actually go to the extent of installing sound monitoring devices in order to monitor the sound levels in the different units.
Acoustical studies conducted at the Mayo Clinic found noise levels as high as 110 decibels, as loud as a jackhammer. In senior living facilities, noise has another effect. 14% of senior residents have trouble hearing. Those residents tend to withdraw from noisy environments because they have trouble understanding conversations. This leads to social isolation, a state that is detrimental to a senior's long-term health. The most significant cause was difficulty understanding speech because of background noise and reverberant spaces. Some seniors had developed a range of adaptive behaviors to cope, such as switching a hearing aid off or lip reading. On average, a person's hearing loss increases by 5 to 8 decibels per decade. We can expect the need for well-designed soundscapes to increase year by year, along with a growing population of senior citizens. Noise can also break our concentration at work. Steelcase research found that noise distractions rob us of 86 minutes per day. That's more than 7 hours a week lost to noise, almost 30 hours a month, more than 2 months of every year. Of course, once you're distracted, getting back to work is no small feat. Noise also interferes with our working memory, which allows us to retain information just long enough to use it. Working memories are the sticky notes of the mind, and noise can easily blow them all away. When we finally turn back to work, we're essentially starting over, scribbling on new sticky notes, trying to get our brain back to where it was before that smartphone rang next to us or that car alarm went off downstairs.
When you're distracted, you can say, I cannot work in this environment. It's too much going on. Some people are more visually distracted, and some people are more distracted by sound.
Now people aren't in walls, they have lower panels, they're being able to see each other and hear phone calls. Now I can hear my neighbor, or now I hear the general noise of the space, or I hear people down the hall.
A study from the Center for the Built Environment found that the biggest frustrations for employees in open offices are a lack of sound privacy and noise in general. Sound privacy was ranked over 3 times more important than cleanliness, lighting, or colors and textures. 50% of people in office cubicles say noise interferes with productivity. When we are in a cubicle and do not have a visual of our coworkers, we tend to speak more loudly. Maybe worst of all, noise distractions can significantly drain motivation and creativity. Research shows that some ambient noise, like the clatter in a coffee shop, can increase creativity, but that highly creative people tend to need quiet. Charles Darwin observed that he could not screen out incidental sounds and needed extreme quiet. French novelist Marcel Proust wore earplugs. Scottish philosopher Thomas Carlyle constructed a soundproof room in his home. Fast forward to today. Sonos Vice President of Design Tad Tulis plans alone time and reflection time. Have you ever worked late or come in early to get work done in a quiet, undistracted environment? Clearly, we need to design workspaces that allow people to select the soundscape that works best for them. The principles of working memory also apply in learning environments. Colleges are often bustling, noisy places. Sports events, rallies, loud conversations, music, it all contributes to a soundscape. Hard surfaces are more and more common in student housing, which increases the transmission of sound and of noise. That noisy environment commonly interrupts sleep and study, reducing a student's ability to learn.
Our newest residence hall was finished in 2015, and then we have our oldest was in 1917. We have a wide range of buildings, some new, some old, and each building has different issues with acoustics.
University Center is sort of the living room of campus. We see at least 5,000 to 6,000 individual visits a day. We think a lot about acoustics and sound. In some ways, you're always sort of fighting your last battle. And in our previous building, the Commons, which was the big hangout space, was flooring with brick. And so the biggest complaint in surveys that we did on an annual basis was about the noise.
The problem is not just in colleges, of course. For the most part, school classrooms for younger students are designed as a learning environment. But when filled with children, these rooms become noise chambers. Cafeterias tend to have few sound-absorbent surfaces. Voices bounce off walls, floors, and ceilings. The effect is equivalent to adding several hundred people to the room. What's more, constant noise can diminish a teacher's energy as the teacher strains to be heard. A rowdy group of students can easily surpass the decibel threshold that triggers anxiety, stress, and even depression. In educational environments, high decibel levels impair comprehension, memory, and reading ability. They also cause test scores to decline. It should come as no surprise that soundscapes impact industries of all kinds. Noise is among one of the most common complaints made by hotel guests. The trend toward hard surface flooring in hotel design has only increased this problem.
To my fault, I'm a light sleeper. So whenever I stay at hotels, any type of mechanical system, the on-off, right? Just that quick loud noise gets me up. Even appliances, a lot of hotels have microwave or refrigerators, that refrigerator turning off and on. You have guests walking up and down the corridor, so we were very mindful of that. Threshold underneath the door, make sure we have some type of sweep that at least limits noise transmission.
The same hard surface trend has taken hold in the retail and restaurant industries. Hard flooring is durable, but it drastically increases noise transference, often chasing customers away. One restaurateur noted the guests loved the food, but said they would never come back because of the noise. Some restaurant reviewers even carry decibel meters. Whether they know the term or not, consumers care about their soundscape. The hard surface flooring trend has reached the residential sector as well. That's changed the soundscapes in our home, affecting our sleep, our children's ability to learn and study, and our general peace of mind. The issue is also prevalent in multifamily housing. According to a survey of property managers, noise is the third most frequent complaint made by residents. And these complaints aren't just idle chatter. 20% of residents say they would move if there were noisy or annoying neighbors. According to real estate expert Edward Kelly, one turnover on a rental rate of $1,120 a month costs the owner $3,360 in lost revenue. In summary, controlling the soundscape of a building is crucial to its success. People need choices: quiet spaces, focus rooms, collaboration zones, office neighborhoods. As industry professionals, we all have the unique ability to change the soundscapes that people live, work, and play in. It all starts with understanding what factors influence acoustics or the architecture of sound in a building. Let's start with the fundamentals. How do we measure sound so we can control it? In everyday life, we talk about sound in qualitative terms. When the children are too loud, we ask them to keep it down. When we can't hear the music, we say, turn it up. But we can also quantify sound. There are two units of quantitative sound measurement: decibels and frequency. Put simply, decibels measure loudness or volume. Put more technically, decibels measure the amount of pressure a sound makes. Frequency is a bit more complicated. It measures pitch. Pitch depends on the number of sound wave cycles per second. The higher the number of cycles, the higher the pitch, and the higher the frequency. A recording of a flute has a high pitch, while a recording of a bass guitar has a low pitch. Turn up the volume on either recording, and you'll increase the decibel level, but you won't change the pitch. Decibel levels range from a private conversation at 20 decibels to a louder conversation at 30. A copier working hard might register at 60 decibels, while a television with its volume turned fairly high might reach 90. When it comes to our ears, irritation starts at 88 decibels. Exposure to more than 1 minute of a rock concert at 110 decibels and above can cause hearing loss. Frequency is measured in hertz. 1 hertz equals 1 sound wave cycle per second. A piano ranges from a low pitch of 32 hertz to a high pitch of 4,186. Common pitches in our environment are heating systems at 32, copiers at 261, glasses clinking in a restaurant at 1,046, and a squeaking car at 4,186. Undamaged ears can take in frequencies as low as 20 hertz and as high as 20,000. But the older we get, the less we hear the higher pitches. You can actually use pitch to estimate your age. Here is a range of frequencies starting at 6,000 hertz. As the frequency climbs, fewer and fewer of us will be able to hear it. Why are hertz important for our purposes? Because when we measure sound, we want to understand how frequencies affect seniors, adults, teenagers, and children in the built environment. Designing a space for quiet requires a strategy that works for both high and low frequencies. For example, carpet is excellent at reducing mid to high frequency sounds, but other methods are needed for low frequency sounds. To promote well-being and productivity in the built environment, designers focus on biophilic design and the human need for light, comfort, beauty, and quiet. To help people experience the maximum benefits of this approach means managing both decibels and frequency in a space. Our soundscapes are composed of 3 main types of sound. Impact sounds. Think of your child's footsteps on the floor above your head or someone hammering a nail into the wall behind your desk. There's in-room sound, like my voice right now. And then there's airborne sound, through a barrier, like my voice heard by a person in another room. If we have an unpleasant soundscape, we need to understand which type of sound is bothering us. Each type of sound has a different test and a different solution. An upstairs neighbor pacing in high heels on a hardwood floor. A heavy chair being dragged across that same floor. A knock at the front door. All these things are impact sounds resulting from contact with the barrier. Impact sounds transmitting through the floor are a major concern for property managers with multifamily residents, student housing, and hotels.
Our construction, it is garden style, and it's your typical wood stick-built community. And we do have residents that have concerns when you do hear noise transferring from one apartment to another. Your typical noise would be really walking or loud bumps. It could be from dropping something, but it would obviously transfer to the resident below.
We've seen a trend toward more people come in and they want different accommodations. They have a medical reason, maybe environmental allergies, or some other reason where they can't have carpet in their room. From a functional point of view, it's a lot easier to clean up a spill on a hard surface than it is bringing in an extractor and cleaning it out of carpet. But I've been reticent to because carpet gives really good acoustics. So if we can figure out a way to follow those trends and maintain the right acoustics, that's what we want to do. We had an opportunity to take in one floor of our high-rise tower, we put in 3 different flooring. So we had one with LVT, one LVT with underlayment, one floating floor, and then we used our carpeted apartment as a baseline. And then we brought in a team who did acoustic testing. The sound technician came in and he had a machine. It was in a box and it sort of had a cam and it was a thumping machine. So that cam would thump, thump, thump on the floor. And then when he had it running, he would bring out this really robust microphone and he would wave it around the room and pick up the decibels at different frequencies, high, low, mid-range. The LVT with underlayment, the underlayment is maybe a 1/16 of an inch thick. It's very thin. It performed almost as well as our carpet tiles.
We measure impact sounds with an Impact Insulation Class Rating, or IIC rating. To develop the rating, a standardized machine taps on the floor repetitively with metal hammers. A receiving device is placed in the room below to measure the sounds in decibels and across a range of frequencies. IIC ratings can range from as low as 25 up to 110. The higher the score, the more impact sound is reduced. The International Building Code requires a minimum IIC of 50 or 45 in a field test. However, most people can still hear sounds through a barrier until we reach a score of 65. Interior design trends with pared-back aesthetics, exposed ceilings, hard surface flooring, and the elimination of insulation materials do not help us reduce impact sounds. To give you an idea, here is how the standardized tapping machine sounds on a resilient surface. And here's how it sounds on carpet. Sometimes you will see a product with the Delta IIC rating. The Delta IIC rating shows what the product adds to the assembly in terms of isolating impact footfall noise. The Delta IIC test starts by testing a full assembly, typically 6 to 8 inches of concrete, with nothing above or below the concrete. The Delta IIC rating is the performance gain between the first and second test. A higher number shows better performance. A manufacturer that lists a rating of 60 IIC or above is quoting the full flooring assembly. That's why it's always better to use a test with your specific flooring assembly to approximate your final score. The most common flooring construction between levels in buildings of 5 stories or fewer are the open web truss and the I-joist. In an open web truss, there can be many layers. From top to bottom, we have flooring, which is luxury vinyl tile in this case. Then underlayment, gypsum, plywood, open web truss, resilient channel, and drywall, which is the ceiling of our downstairs neighbor. Here is the I-joist with a similar assembly with carpet. A concrete construction is usually 6 inches for a residential high-rise and 8 inches for an office building, hotel, or healthcare facility. Flooring is adhered directly to the concrete in many cases, or may be combined with an added or integrated underlayment or cushion. We must know the floor-ceiling construction that was used in testing. Let's assume we're looking at an 8-inch concrete slab with no ceiling, and we're adding resilient flooring. When we add 2 millimeters of LVT, we score 34, which sounds like this. But add an underlayment and the score is boosted to 56, which sounds like this. It's a dramatic difference. 5 millimeters of EVT without underlayment at 43 sounds like this. Add an underlayment and the score is a 56. We can improve the IIC rating of a resilient floor by adding underlayment or thickness, but underlayment may change the deflection of the hard surface. That's why it is not advisable to use in a space with heavy rolling loads. Carpet is even better at mitigating sound. On the same flooring construction, commercial carpet tile with no underlayment scores a 61 IIC. Add cushion, and we have a 67 IIC. And lastly, a 25-ounce residential carpet with a 5-pound cushion scores an 88. Carpet is the best flooring for mitigating sound and can be improved by adding cushion. For example, the owner of a large apartment complex used the same flooring construction and different types of floor covering in different buildings. Results showed that simply adding carpets in bedrooms reduced the percentage of complaints from 3.2% to 1.9%. In the rush of designing, building, and furnishing, sometimes it's hard to prioritize soundscapes. A building owner in Pittsburgh was receiving daily noise complaints from their occupants in their 4-story luxury condominium building. Field testing with the tapper showed that the apartments had an IIC of 38 to 42. The building owner's target was an IIC of at least 55. The initial intent was to compare 2 flooring underlayments to improve conditions, but other issues were found to be much more problematic. Inspections found that the resilient channel had been installed incorrectly. The trusses required additional mass and additional insulation was needed. This correction required tearing out all the ceilings and repairing the flooring construction at a cost of $20 per square foot. These changes lifted the IIC from a range of 38 to 42 to a range of 53 to 59. Why didn't the building inspector note this? 2 reasons. First, because the International Building Code does not require field testing. And second, because the inspector may only review the plans which do meet code. Plans are then altered many times along the way, leading to a final product that might not be up to code at all. As in this case, poor construction practices can greatly degrade the sound protection residents often seek when moving into a new home. It would have cost virtually no additional money to build this correctly from the outset.
With our construction, we had some noise issues between floors, so we were not able to use that vinyl plank flooring product in the upper floor apartment. When we did increase the weight of the carpet pad, and we actually did a test where we had someone walk in the newly carpeted area, someone below listening, and we did notice a difference, enough to make that the new standard.
An apartment building owner in Hollywood, California, was receiving more noise complaints than the usual in his new building, and occupants were breaking leases. Field tests revealed an IIC rating of 45, which is the bare minimum per the International Building Code for a field test. The existing flooring was a glue-down luxury vinyl tile, which had cost him $2 per square foot for material and installation. In this case, the situation was solved by covering the luxury vinyl tile with a click-in LVT over an underlayment at a cost of $5 per square foot. This improved the overall rating by 3 points to an IIC of 48, but the substantial improvement in high-frequency acoustical performance was close to 10 to 20 decibels. This means high frequencies, such as a woman's high-heel clicks, were nearly 2 to 4 times quieter. Had the property owner installed this product initially, it would have only cost an additional $3 per square foot, with no broken leases. Mitigating impact sound is a crucial part of the planning and design process and should be taken into account from the outset. In-room sound is altogether different. Sound reverberates around a room based on its construction and furnishings. Television, music, voices, and footsteps create a web of sound that deflects off of floors, walls, ceilings, furniture, even wall hangings. In-room sound is most important anywhere we need to hear clearly. The items that we place in the room changes how we experience sound. Designers can add tremendous value to a soundscape by planning for the acoustic effects of various items, from rugs and plants to furniture and wall art. The size of a rug can change a room's absorption. The texture of a couch can capture sound, and a bookcase on a wall can deflect it.
Like water, sound is going to go everywhere, and you can't stop it. You create and you use design elements in a way that help to sort of soften the blow or deafen the noise, if you will. The room that we're in, there is glass, but there's also acoustical material that's on the wall that helps deaden or lessens the reverberation.
Anytime that you're adding softness, something that's porous, you're adding sound absorption. I actually just finished a project doing that. What they had was a space that was a lot of color blocking. And so I wanted to try to incorporate a bit more complexity to this space. So I had a carved acoustic panel, a little bit more three-dimensional, and that has helped with some of the noise bouncing off and just aesthetically pleasing. It brightens up the space.
The noise reduction coefficient, or NRC rating, measures how much sound energy is absorbed by a surface. Essentially, the higher the NRC ratings, the lower the reverberation time. To test for NRC, a sound lab room is equipped with a microphone. The room is tested as a baseline. Then the product, an underlayment, acoustical ceiling, or LVT sample, is introduced. The sound absorption is measured at 4 frequencies. NRC ratings range from 0 to 1.0, with 1.0 being the most absorptive. Using the exact same flooring construction, NRC ratings of floor coverings are 0.0 for marble or concrete, 0.05 for 5mm LVT or LVP with underlayment, 0.15 for 17-ounce loop carpet tile, 0.25 for 17-ounce loop carpet tile with cushion, and 0.7 for 25-ounce cut pile residential with cushion. Measuring the noise reduction coefficient is more important for locations where understanding speech is critical, such as classrooms or large meeting rooms, or in open offices to minimize distractions. Products with high NRC values help control the amount of echo and reduce the reverberation time in a space, making it easier to understand a person that is speaking. Common materials that improve sound absorption are acoustic panels, drapes, ceiling tiles, furniture, and soft flooring.
So in the dining halls specifically, we're always looking for things that can soak up sound. Doing 4,000 meals a day is just a lot. It's, clanging, but it's also, voices, and it's all those things. And so really every material that we use, flooring, countertops, millwork, even the lights, the light fixtures, anything that we can think of that has some quality to soak up some sound is really something that we're looking for.
These materials are usually fuzzy. Think foams, fabrics, carpets, and cushions, and their porous construction converts sound energy into a small amount of heat, reducing noise. In general, these sound absorbers are more effective with high-frequency sounds. Carpet and its cushion are the best flooring absorber in many types of spaces and can provide significant absorption at mid and high frequencies. However, carpet does not address common low frequencies. Low-frequency absorbers can be added as a supplement. Another aspect of in-room sound is in-room power. That is the sound energy that an impact makes within a room in decibels. Think about the difference between walking on hardwood floor and carpet. The impact of the footfall on a hard surface is louder than a soft surface like carpet. Using a standardized source, such as the tapper, you can hear the difference. The tapper on wood plastic composite flooring scores a decibel level of 84. On LVT, 77, and carpet tile, 74. Using a golf ball to generate the noise is a great way to hear the difference. Here is a golf ball on a hard surface. On LVT, and on carpet. Controlling the in-room power is important in an open office where adjacent walkways are hard surface.
I think the arrangement of the space has a lot to do with where you keep zones of boisterous and loud activity versus where you keep more heads-down activities. For instance, if you've designed a space that there's an open space and you're going 2 floors and you've got a central stair that goes up and down. Well, the material you put on that stair matters. I've seen examples where they did this really cool steel stair, but the sound going up and down that stair, unless you were in your bare feet, it was unbearable.
Let's look at an example that shows how the NRC rating was used to improve an educational space. A large university in New York designed an atrium to inspire event gatherings and to provide a speaking venue, but the echo in the room made it difficult for students to hear. In a group setting, students had to raise their voices to be understood, only increasing the noise level in the space and compounding the problem. A design approach was presented to address the issue. The plan centered around installing carpet with pad to cover almost 80% of the hard surface. When the retrofit was complete, echo time for normal speaking frequencies was decreased from 2.52 seconds to 1.97 seconds. Student complaints plummeted, and the total cost for the carpeting installation to cover 3,700 square feet was only $10,000. The last type of sound is airborne sound through a barrier, such as a floor and ceiling assembly. Sound travels through the air as a wave. When airborne vibrations strike a floor, the vibrations pass through and exit through the other side as sound again. Airborne sound through a barrier is rated with the Sound Transmission Class Rating, or STC. STC measures the reduction of airborne sound energy through a floor, ceiling, or wall. To measure STC, a loud noise is played in one room, and a device measures how much of that sound energy makes it into the room below or next door. The test is measuring sound that moves through the air. The sounds of a television, music, and voices can carry through a floor and ceiling construction to the neighbor below. Protection from airborne sound is important for privacy, comfort, sleep, and concentration. Controlling this type of sound is important to those who are developing, building, designing, or managing multi-story buildings, such as student housing and hotels.
If I'm a roadside Hampton Inn right next to the interstate and I'm a 4-story wood hotel, when we get with the design team, we really stress sound transmission, the windows. For example, Hampton may spec a 35 or a 40 STC window. We realize we're by the highway, we need to increase that, and we're willing to spend more dollars to go to a 45 or a 50 rated STC rated window so you have less sound transmission.
The noise level in a lot of your hospitals really affect the families that are in there, and trying to make sure that your family is taken care of. In order to have that sound barrier, you need to make sure that the doors are closed, that the makeup of the room is right, make sure that people are monitoring the noise levels in the hallways and the surrounding areas.
Airborne sound is also an issue for office environments that need to block the sound of a meeting room from an adjacent office space. Controlling airborne sound is crucial when confidentiality is important, such as in a doctor's office, a pharmacy, or a human resources office. The assembly of the building has the most influence on the STC rating. Things like insulation thickness, for example, or the presence of a gypsum layer. STC ratings range from 0 to 70. The higher the rating, the more acoustical privacy we have. The International Building Code requires a minimum of 50, however, most people are satisfied with a rating of 65. STC is not affected by floor covering. Extensive testing shows even at the extremes, from the thickest cushioned carpet to the thinnest LVT, the difference in STC is only 1 to 2 points. So to improve the STC, you must address the floor construction. Flooring construction also has the biggest impact on IIC. A ground floor condominium owner in Santa Monica, California, was frustrated with noise from the residents above them. The consultant suspected that the thudding noise in the structure was because the building was constructed in 1963, prior to the adoption of the California State Building Code. After inspection, a direct attached gypsum ceiling was replaced with a spring-isolated ceiling. The problem was solved for $49,611. Had a resilient channel been installed up front, the cost would have been minimal. In flooring construction, there are 3 ways to reduce sound waves: through absorption, decoupling, and mass. Let's look at absorption. The insulation between the floor and ceiling absorbs some of the sound waves. The thicker the insulation, the more sound it absorbs. Another method for reducing sound is called decoupling. Decoupling prevents vibrations from transferring from one material to the next. Sound is reduced by breaking the vibration chain. One of the most common sound isolation elements is a metal resilient channel isolator that is attached to the underside of the floor joist. The gypsum board panel is applied to the resilient channel isolator so that the screws do not extend into the joist. It's a very effective approach. Here is an example of a resilient channel or a hat channel with a sound isolation clip. A sound mat also decouples sound. Contractors would generally use a resilient channel, but some leave out the sound mat or try to compensate with floor coverings and cushion. It's far cheaper to build in a sound mat up front than to make a correction later. Another method for reducing sound is mass. Mass is the physical property that causes a material to have weight. So, the more we can add to the floor and ceiling construction, the better sound control we will have. Here in this drawing, mass is added first by the underlayment, second, the subfloor, third, the truss, and fourth, the gypsum board. Low-rise buildings generally have stick construction, either open web truss or I-joist. In high-rises, hospitals, and office buildings, it's typical to have 8-inch concrete or 6-inch concrete floors. 8-inch concrete will block more sound than 6-inch concrete. Now that we understand sound, its effects, how to measure it, and how to control it, let's look at guidelines. The International Building Code has standards for impact sound and airborne sound in buildings. The minimum acceptable rating for impact sound and airborne sounds is 50 in the lab and 45 in the field. The field rating will always be 3 to 5 points lower because the floor in the lab is not attached to walls and other parts of the structure. Even though the IIC recommends 50, a resident of a luxury condo or premium apartment may not be satisfied with the bare minimum, and a guest in a high-end hotel may not tolerate any noise from above.
We're doing this boutique hotel, the Edwin. Being a boutique hotel, we thought that customer that's going to be staying there, they're going to be paying $300-400 a night, versus a Hampton Inn who's going to be paying maybe $150. So to enhance that level of experience, because when you're paying that kind of money, you got to make sure you get every touch point perfect. From the moment they enter the hotel, right, to the guest interaction, to as soon as they walk into the room, they just need to be wowed. We decided to go with a VRF unit, which is a variable refrigerant type system. The delta between that system and the next lowest was about $500,000. But we decided to do that because this is a high-end boutique and noise was such a concern. I mean, this thing, you can hardly hear it turn off and on. But we thought that was an investment we had to make for the kind of clientele that would be staying there.
The International Building Code does not specify NRC ratings for sound absorption within a room. The United States Green Building Council and the Well Building Institute are 2 of the leading certifiers for the environmental qualities of a building. The United States Green Building Council's LEED V4 focuses on airborne sound and in-room sound for commercial buildings, schools, and healthcare facilities. Here are some examples of requirements for airborne sound. A hotel requires a quieter space in a room, 55 STC, than a hallway, 50 STC. An executive office will require more privacy, 50 STC, than a standard office, 45 STC. In-room sound related to products is primarily measured with the NRC rating. However, to measure in-room sound, LEED has established standards for reverberation time and background noise in decibels. Reverberation time is the time it takes for sound to decay 60 decibels from its initial level. For commercial spaces, LEED requires that sound dissipate in 0.6 of a second to 0.8 of a second, and that the decibel level average 35 to 45. Requirements vary based on the type of space, such as a meeting room or an open office. In a similar way, LEED for schools has a different requirement for different types of spaces. A corridor requires less control on sound transmission than a music room. In the classroom, students need to hear the teacher.
A lot of times classrooms are not just a lecture on the stage. Sometimes they're talking with their classmates, and you want that to be a space where they can feel free to speak and hear each other too.
LEED specifies required reverberation time in decibel levels. The decibel level standard is 35, and classrooms should have reverberation times in the range of 0.5 of a second to 0.6 of a second. However, many existing classrooms have reverberation times of 1 second or more. In a classroom with a 1 second reverberation time, the teacher is competing against the lingering reflections of their own voice. The result is a chaotic jumble of sounds. For healthcare facilities, intensive care units should register a maximum of 40 decibels. Even public spaces should be no louder than 50 decibels.
Two of the areas in which we're actually graded on from an environmental services standpoint is how often is your room maintained clean and your bathroom maintained clean, and how quiet is the area around your room on a daily basis.
Some organizations have their own standards. As an example, here are some of the standards from 3 top hotel corporations. All require an IIC of 55, 2 require an STC of 50, and 1 requires an STC of 52. We've covered a lot of ground. We've heard how sound affects our health, sleep, concentration, ability to learn, and heal. We now know how to measure sound in decibels and frequency. We know that there are 3 main types of sound: impact sounds through a barrier, in-room sound, and airborne sound through a barrier. There are 3 tests for these sounds: IIC, STC, and NRC. We've also seen there are other measures such as decibel levels, reverberation times, and in-room power. We know the International Building Code sets minimum standards for both IIC and STC as 50 in the lab or 45 as measured in the field. Generally, people will not hear any noise when the IIC and STC are at 65. To increase our IIC rating, we can decouple or insulate using construction materials or thicker, resilient floor coverings, underlayments, or soft surface flooring. To increase NRC, we can use soft surface products that help absorb sound and reduce reverberation times. To increase our STC rating, we must focus on flooring construction.
Hot water, clean bed, acoustics, all of that plays a big role now in that guest determining where they're going to stay because they're willing to spend the money. When you get into the custom type projects, which are your independent boutiques, we have to get consultants on board to help us kind of navigate the acoustics.
You want people to feel like, yeah, this is going to be a fun place to work or a fun environment. Even if it's a completely open environment, you do have the ability to put some things into place material-wise just to help with acoustics.
One of our goals is to provide safe, comfortable, well-maintained housing. If you walk into a space and the acoustics are off, you're not going to be comfortable. And you may not even realize that it's the acoustics, but they impact you in ways that are sometimes subconscious.
We can dramatically improve how people perceive buildings with these sound controlling strategies. We can help people live healthier and more productive lives. Help a patient ask his doctor all his questions about treatment options. Help coworkers get along and be more productive. Help students learn and graduate. Help families and hotel guests sleep better. Now you have the tools to design soundscapes that are as effective and pleasing as a building's physical environment.